Hi there, Robin here from expertisland. Today we're going to be talking about how to hook up your PA system to your computer. We're going to be using, well, PA systems, and we're going to be using audio interfaces. I've also added a mixer to the table because a lot of times we have mixers that we've had for a long time and it doesn't have a USB option on it, and we want to be able to plug that in. So on today's video, we're going to show what kind of cables you're going to need, and it's going to be working for pretty much all PA systems that are out there. As long as they have some connectors on them, we'll be able to find them, hook them up, and get it to run on our computer. That's going to be today's video. So what we've put on the table is two different PA systems, similar because we've also seen PA systems like this from as well of companies like Yamaha and JBL, and all the big brands have them. I mean, they make them on the consumer side, which is what we have here, and they make them on the commercial side as well. It could also have been a 15-inch PA speaker, as long as it has all the mixer features on the back of it, which makes it a PA, a full package system. It'll work as well. We'll get to those later on in the video, but to start off with, we're going to take some close looks at what we really want to have cable-wise and what we want to look for in an audio interface, so this way this is all going to work for us. So let's take a closer look at some of the pieces that we have here. So in today's video, we're going to be featuring how to connect up the Gemini ES-210MXBLU system. We're going to show the different ways that you can hook up using the PPHP-210AMX from Pyle. We're also going to show how to use the RCA connectors located on mixers, such as on the Alesis MULTIMIX8USB. Now this one also has with FX. For the audio interfaces today, we're going to be using one of PreSonus's audio interfaces, their AUDIOBOX-USB96. We're also going to be featuring a new audio interface from BlastKing called the ULTRAMIX-4D. All right, so what we are going to need are cables. That's going to be one of the big parts. We got to connect everything up. We're going to need cables. The ones we're going to be featuring today are going to be 1/4 inch, unbalanced, which means there's only one slice here, to RCA plugs. That's what our primary cable is going to be. But at your setup, you may need some other cables. You might decide that you want to have 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch cables. In this case, unbalanced. They could be balanced as well, as long as you make sure that both your cables and all your equipment is happy to take balanced cables. If you're stuck, you might also want to use RCA cables, or maybe you already have lots of RCA cables and you happen to have a drawer full of adapters like this, which is a 1/4 inch to RCA adapter. This will let us do everything we need. Now, your equipment may differ, and that's okay, because today we're going to be covering how all of this works and how it's going to hook up to the audio interface. So let's bring over a system and one of the audio interfaces. So our first system is going to be the Pyle, and now this particular one, the PPHP-210, features a specific way on how to get the audio out and in of the unit. It's featured here as the RCA as output, and on channels 7 and 8 as an input. That input happens to be one of those styles that are shared with the MP3 and Bluetooth functions off to the side. So these are the ones we're going to deal with here, and for the audio interface, we're going to start with the PreSonus, the AUDIOBOX-USB96, which for line ins uses combo jacks, which can either be the 1/4 inch or the XLR 3-pin connection, and this unit can handle a balanced or unbalanced connection. Now on the back side, to get the audio out of our computer, we're going to be using the main outs right here. These are 1/4 inch, and they're also going to be going right back into the system. So how do we make that happen? Pretty straightforward. We're going to need two sets of cables, one for the front side and one for the back side. That gets us to the cables we started with, which were the RCA to 1/4 inch. Red and black in this case, no problem. Let's start with getting the sound out of our system. Now you notice I'm not talking about how to hook everything else up. I'm going to assume that you're watching this video, you've done this part already. You and your friends are having a lot of fun using the system, but now you want to take it up a notch and bring it in to your computer so you can share it online. Now I need to plug this in. So I've plugged it into the output. So now everything that's going on in this mixer here is going to come out of these two cables, just like it comes out of the speakers. We're going to turn the audio interface so we have the front, and we find the two instrument or mic inputs in this case right in the front, and we're going to plug that in left and right here. So now we've gotten the audio to come out of this system and into the audio interface. So now we turn it around. When we want to play back, We're going to want all of the stuff from our computer to come back in here with the USB cable, and then we're going to want to have it come back in this system. So again, we're going to use the exact same cables we just had, which again, 1/4 inch to RCA, because, well, the system wants to use the RCA, so we're going to use them right here. And this is a very old school setup. On the back of the unit, again, we're using that main out function right here. There we go. So now our system's hooked up, ready to actually record and play back from this system into our computer via the front, and back from the computer via the monitor output into line 7 and 8 on this particular mixer. Again, this could have been a speaker. The fundamental hookups of this front and back is going to be the same. As long as you have a line out and a line in on your system, you're going to be good. So that's how all that works. Now, of course, we are going to take a moment and look at the computer setups, so this way you can adjust your actual system. Always remember, these systems are normally built to be microphone in line. Microphones are much more sensitive than an output that we have off our actual unit PA system. So you start off no higher than 12 on the actual settings for these guys, and then the software will be able to look at it and make some choices there. And that's it. The rest of this is audio interface options. So, you know, what am I listening to, my playback or my inline, and what's my main output? That's going to be what's coming back out of the system into here. So that's what's happening. Main line out control, level control. Then we're going to look at the software in a moment after we go through the 3 different setups here. So let's try one of the other systems. So now we have the Gemini version of the ES-210, and we brought over the ULTRAMIX-4D from BlastKing as the audio interface. Very similar in layout. Again, we're not going to cover all of this because I'm assuming you have something similar to this, if not this one, at home already. We're going to be talking about what's going on right here. So this particular one says monitor output. So again, we see our RCA as being an output. The important part here is that it's grouped together with some 1/4 inch, so you have some options there. And then down here, we have a monitor output level volume control system. So this is kind of important. Once we connect everything, we are going to have to decide how loud this is going to be, because the Gemini version allows me to have the music on lower, but the monitor on higher if I choose. So how we hook it up? Let's start with one set of cables. So in this case, again, you could have used 1/4 inch if that's what you had. You're going to plug in to your output, in this case monitor out. We're going to grab the audio interface. We're going to look at the back. We're looking for the 2-channel in. Now this is important. I do like using audio interface that have at least 2 line inputs, because that makes it very easy and the sound quality is going to be better and it's going to be easier to use. So I'm going to plug these 2 into the back. Now notice this particular model and design, everything's located in the back. There are very few plugs in the front except for having a headphone jack and a stereo input combo jack. So now we have to hook up the output. Not far from what we just did, we're going to put this down. We're going to grab our next set of RCA cables. We're going to go look for the last set. In this case, we happen to be fortunate. Again, we have RCA jacks. Again, there are 1/4 inch jacks lined up. This is called channel 5 and 6. So here we go. We're going to plug this into here. And if you're getting the hang of this, we want to get the music back into here, or what we're playing back into here. So we're going to find the monitor out, and we are going to hook into the monitor out, left and right. There we go. So now we have the ability to get it in and out of this system. So we turn this around, adjustments again. A model like this, other models are similar, other brands are similar in the setups. We have things like pad buttons that allow us to drop it by 10 dB, and that's so to decrease the overall sensitivity of the system. These things, of course, don't need phantom power. We're going to choose line input. If we have an option between instrument and line, we're going to choose line on both of those, and then we're going to start at 12 o'clock, so 50%. If we're playing back, we're going to want to turn up the monitor level if it's separated from the headphone. So in this case, we have a monitor output and we have a headphone output. So for playback, we're going to start here. We may end up turning this up. We may end up turning it down. We'll decide that on the playback. That's a comfort level for you. And there you go. That's how we hook up this style of an audio interface to this style of a PA system. So There we go. Let's move on to a mixer. Maybe you have an older mixer. Maybe you have a mixer without a USB. Let's take a look at that one next. So here we are. This is an Alesis mixer. It's the MULTIMIX8. It actually has a USB audio interface in it, and it has effects. That's the model number, MULTIMIX8USB with effects. And we brought back the PreSonus AUDIOBOX-USB96. Now, as a side note, before we get started, even though this has a USB, there are people who do go out and buy better audio interfaces and plug them in because they want to improve upon the quality of the recording of their mixer into their computer. So this is also a good reason why you would get a better audio interface if you're doing studio work and you do want to get much better than this here. So how do we hook this guy up? Well, yeah, we're going to go right for it. We're going to go right to the actual track in, track out options on it. At least they got rid of the word tape and they've actually replaced it with tracks. So here's our output and here's our input. So all that's going to happen is we're going to do exactly like we did before. We're going to grab one of our cables that has the RCAs on it. We are going to take the output, which is here. We're going to plug into that. Output, which is now going to become in, so sound comes out of here, goes in to our audio interface. Now we're going to be able to grab the second cable, and we're going to be able to come into here. Now, there are two ways to actually bring audio in. And I'm going to explain the second one in a moment. So here we're going to grab the other end of those cables. And we're going to come out, of course, just like we did before, of the monitors in the back. Now traditionally, the black is the left, the red is the right. In the front, we're going to go channel 1 on the left, channel 2 on the right. You can play around with that a bit. I just tend to use that as a mindset. I've got it right, it's plugged in the way, and I always have the same way plugged in every time. Now, on different types of mixers, sometimes you have controls for these options, which I just plugged into, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it just plays out through the main, and that's it. You may have one single control knob that allows you to get the return channels into it, that sort of thing. If you want to have any controls over your playback, the music coming in, then maybe you would have used some 1/4-inch cables and grabbed some of the last lines. So maybe instead of here, I want to have a little bit more control over my playback. So I would go and grab my two 1/4-inch cables, and I would use that instead. So I would come out of the monitor out on the back here. And then I would go look for the last two channels that are in on the mixer, plug those in here. So that's going to give me some abilities. That's number 7 and 8. So now I can use all the functionality that's in 7 and 8 to run that. So if I had some 1/4-inch cables and that was an option for me and that's something I wanted to do, I can certainly do that as well. Now we've covered how to hook up different styles of PA systems and mixers. Let's take a look a bit about how to set it up on the computer. The software today is going to be Audacity. That's what we have right up here. It's free software. We'll have a link down below so you can download it if you don't have it, but it's a great software to play around with and get started. Now you could be using your audio interface once you've plugged it into your computer so you can have, live Facebook or live YouTube or make YouTube videos, or you can be using it for Zoom or for a class. So many different things. I mean, maybe you have an actual exercise class that you do and you want to be able to hook up your PA system to your computer so this way you can do things like we're doing right now. That being said, it's important that if you're going to be using this software for other things besides actual audio recording like we're doing here, you're going to want to find out if your actual PA system has an EQ or a bass and treble control that is post or pre-audio. That means if it's a pre, when you plug the RCAs into the audio interface, and of course the audio interface into your laptop, is it listening to the microphone directly from the line level? Or is it actually taking advantage of the bass and treble settings and maybe an equalizer that you may have inside, including the effects? To find that out, you would actually go on to your actual PA system while you're doing a test recording like we're doing right now, and you would basically turn down on the channel that you have your microphone plugged into. So the treble first, we're going to turn that down all the way to -6, and then we're going to turn that back up to unity, which is where we're at now. This is where I had it set, which is +4. So this way it gives me a lot of clarity in my voice. And then I can turn it all the way up to +6. Now, if I do that, when I listen to it on the playback, of course, you know, giving myself instructions on where I'm at, you're going to be able to tell if you actually have a pre or post. So again, I'm going to do that on the bass. I'm going to bring the bass all the way, take it away, all the way to -6. Then I'm going to turn around and bring it all the way back up to +6. Now, where I did have it set was at unity because I didn't want any extra bass. So now we're back at unity, and you can certainly hear the difference. So that's a good thing. That means that I can actually equalize my voice, balance out the sound. So I want more clarity, I want more mids and highs, so I brought up the treble, and I left the bass alone. I didn't add any of that at all. As for the overall settings, the unit we have plugged in for this actual recording is the Pyle PPHP-210AMX. That's plugged into the BlastKing ULTRAMIX-4D. Remember, all those links are down below. And the Ultra link is set at about 70%, 60 to 70% on the two mic 1 and mic 2. And the actual PA system, I have set 7 out of 10. So 70% on the mic level. The treble was set at 4 and the bass was set at 0. Of course, I'm not using any effects. You can hear that. That's what we have on the output. Now, if we come back to the software here for a moment and we see what's going on here, I was able to use the levels at 70%, and that's because I'm trying to achieve up on top a meter rating that's going to be, let's say, somewhere between -45 and around 18. That's a good spot to be. I'm trying not to get into the yellow, which is up here, or definitely hit the limit at 0, because then my voice is going to be either distorted or it's going to be chopped off altogether, where it's just crunch sound at the top. So that's what you're trying to achieve here. To make sure you're using the right sound card, don't start the software until after you've plugged in your audio interface. This is going to give your audio interface a chance right here to be able to detect all the actual systems you have, and then you'll be able to choose the right audio interface. In this case, the headphones I'm using are actually plugged into the computer because I'm only going to listen to the playback and I want to hear it the same way everybody else is going to hear it, so I plug straight into my laptop right here. So if we look down here, we actually get to see what type of audio quality we're using for this particular project. It's registered in Hertz. So this particular audio interface from BlastKing has 44.1 kilohertz and it has 48 kilohertz. Normally, you're not going to hear much of a difference, but it does, when it comes to the end product, make a bit of a difference. If you're going to be using it for video purposes, use 44.1. If you're going to be using it for music, like a podcast or anything like that, or you're singing and you actually want to have just an audio file that works out really well for everything else, use 48 kilohertz, which is 48,000 hertz in this case, what you're going to see here. So deciding what the best settings are, you want to be able to get yourself in a place where you practice and practice and practice when you're not doing anything important. So if you're just sitting back and you want to know, well, how does my product work? Well, that's what you're going to do here. You're going to do it, you're going to only do 15, 20 seconds at a time. Call out your sound checks and the way you're actually adjusting your hardware, so this way you can get a good relationship between what's going on. Play it back, do it over and over again. Once you've done it 5, 6, 7 times, I know it sounds like a lot, but you're only doing 15, 20 seconds at a time, doing small increments, you're going to get it really nicely dialed in. That's important. Remember, I'm going to say this is my 3rd attempt of actually doing the full audio track. I probably did 4 sound tests, recorded it, didn't like it when I was all done, thinking I got it right, but I really didn't. Then I went back and did it again. I'm trying to make sure this audio file fits in with the rest of my video, because the rest of my video is done on the audio interface that I use normally. So that's really what's going on here. Practicing is real important, and getting comfortable with what you have. You learn one feature at a time up here, you're going to do really well over time. You don't need to become an expert at this to basically use it. You just hit the record button to record, and there you go. You hit stop when you're done. You hit play when you want to play it back. If you want to get rid of a file, hit the X. You want to save a file, hit the actual file save option. That's pretty much it. There is a ton of other great things that are all in here, but play with them one at a time and you'll have a lot of fun with it. And yes, you can actually play back a file while recording a second file at the same time. Once you stop your main file, just basically hit the record button again, it'll start right back at the beginning. It'll start actually recording a whole new set of tracks down here, and it'll play back the tracks that are up here. So that's pretty cool. Adding an audio interface to a system that you already own, like a PA system, is a real convenient way. This could be scaled up. I mean, if you have a house of worship, you have a rec center, you have anything where you have a big PA system and you've had it for years, and you're looking to go live online, or you want to be able to record so this way you can put it on Spotify or do anything like that, or just share with friends and family online via Zoom or whatever it is. Adding an audio interface to an existing system is a really good way to go. It's not complicated once you've done it once or twice. Now, if you're old school and you used to, have tape decks back in the day or anything that you recorded, the principle of hooking it up is the same. An audio interface is basically what they call a digital to analog converter, and then an analog to digital converter. That's all it is. It takes analog signal, which is coming out of our system, brings it into a box that's going to make it into a digital signal, so this way our computer can record it and then use it any way we want. We do need to make sure that we get our balance levels all the way to the computer itself, but once you have that down, and it just takes a little bit of practice, it's fairly easy going forward. Always warm up a little bit. This way it's not like you record a whole soundtrack and went, oh my god, that sounds terrible. Practice a little bit and you'll get a lot better at it, and every recording after that will just be a little bit better than the last one you did. So again, it doesn't matter what brand, look for the line ins and the line outs as good options. And like I said in the video, if you don't have line in directly as a loop function, you can use features like the actual last set of line channels on your mixer. So whatever number of channels you have, look at the last two, they're usually paired up anyways, use them to bring the sound back into your actual mixing board, and then all you need to do is look for monitor outputs. So if you didn't have RCAs as options, monitor outs on your actual mixing boards will get you the same as an actual line out. Simple enough. That'll allow you to still use your system and be able to record it at the same time. I'm sure there's questions and comments. By all means, you're welcome to leave them down below. Get to them when we can. That's the idea. And sometimes, like this one, it was a question that I didn't just have in the comment section. I've also had it here in the showroom several times. I've gotten people that were ordering systems and wanted to upgrade or have them hooked on, and we've had to talk them through it on the phone. So again, this is really a very universal way of getting things done. Practical, easy, and affordable, because if you've already invested a lot of money in the actual PA system you have, you don't need to replace it all. Just add an audio interface. So again, we did have a Gemini, we had a BlastKing, we had an Alesis, we could have had other models. This is what we had available to us right now today. We could have had multiple audio interfaces as well, but we decided to go to PreSonus because it's very popular, and we also decided to go with a new model from BlastKing. So important thing, try and get one that has at least 2 channels on it. It makes it easier to hook up, and then look at what your system has for cable connections and what your audio interface has for cable connections. This way you end up with the right combination of cables. There'll be links for everything we've talked about here today down below. There's lots of other videos that talk about just the actual systems we had in the video today, and there's lots of videos from a lot of other good people on YouTube that talk about the software that we were playing with, which was Audacity. That's it for today. We'll talk soon. See you on the next video, and bye for now.